Hi everyone, here's a short video to show you how to do some rendering using the prisms. Make sure that you do a one light source. This is smooth shading. On one side you obviously make it very dark, on the other side you make it very, very light, and there's a mid-tone. If there are no facets or sides, then you're basically making it a smooth transition. There's no line to change that. So you'll basically have a dark on one side, on the opposite side to where the sun is shining, and then that's your shadow. Clean it up with your rubber just to make it a bit tidier. This is definitely a smooth transition, and if you are trying to work out how to put textures on, this is really where this video goes. We're now going to do a tennis ball, so you mark out the lines where the rubber part on the tennis ball is, and the green fur is going to be done using scumbling. We're definitely looking at texture, and we're trying to make this circle become a sphere, three-dimensional shape, so we have to make sure that we're using our circular scumbling, and we have to use a light source. So we have to work out where the light is. So in this case, I've made it on the left-hand side, and we are going to do the light on the top there on the left, and we're going to make it dark on the right. Scumbling. Eventually you will end up losing those outlines of the rubber where the white is. They're just guidelines for us, and I've possibly pressed a little bit too hard there in order to get rid of those, but eventually I will be able to rub them back and make the outline belong to the texture, the scumbled texture. I work out where the dark area is going to go on my sphere. It's the bottom right hand side. So I'm going to press harder with my pencil. Press really hard using the same scumbling motion. Now I'm doing this a little bit too quickly, but I'm trying to show you how it should look and the sort of motion that we use to get texture. On this side it's going to be dark, so I'm definitely pressing harder and scumbling with a heavier pencil. I'm really pressing hard on that. Now, because I've decided that the light is coming from the left-hand side, I'm just going to do a double check that my overall picture is convincing. And at the moment it's not. I've really just followed a formula. So I'm giving a contour line, a semicircle, and I'm going to make sure that everything below that is smoothly going up towards the light. So there's a mid-tone in the middle and a dark tone. For me to work back into it, I'm going to use a rubber so that I can almost get rid of those extra lines that I don't need, and it's going to be again more convincing. So I'm going to move now to my triangular prism. I'm going to make this into a cut up piece of timber, and the grain has to go in a direction, and in this case it's going to go from top to bottom. The light source is going to be against the grain, and up here is going to be nice and dark where the end grain is. The end grain doesn't actually have any long bits, so if you draw the same thing on both sides, it's going to look fake or like a veneer. Wood texture has lines in it because it grows in rings, and we call that grain. So I'm going to put my lines there. This is just a bit of a formula. I'm making this up because I do know when I have looked at trees before, they have rings and they have little knots in them sometimes if the wood's not clear. Because this is the end grain, I'm going to try and match up the rings just a touch with the lines there, and I won't be too convincing with it after it's been made very dark, but generally when you look at wood grain they tend to join up like that. When they're cut across the grain they sort of look a little bit like a crosshatch. So I'm going to make this very, very dark so that it looks better with the light, and this is rendering. It's going to convince our eye that there is light hitting the edge of the grain. Now I'm going to work back into these grain lines, these lines that are on the wood, and I'm going to do some very light pencil work because the light is hitting on that side. And I'm going to go back in with my eraser in a minute because the lines are too distinct. I'm going to bring a little line across there showing the light, where the light might be hitting the end grain, and it sort of smudges it a little bit as well. Again, I'm working back in with my eraser, and it smudges it a little bit, and it's almost like I'm now treating it like a surface, like a flat cut surface, as though I've sanded that piece of timber on the side there, made it nice and smooth so it's a nice flat side. Just to recap, we have a dark and smooth shading. It's a smooth transition, and we also have mid-tones. We looked at texture, and we looked at another type of surface. This is really cool. This is rendering